and what he wants to see out of him is improved leadership. He took a step last year, but how do you specifically coach leadership out of the quarterback position? That seems like something that takes a little work both on the field and the practice room. Just what's your philosophy there?
Leadership is performance, and performance is leadership in each of the 4 domains of learning.
Did you know that he said that exact same thing today?
Who did?
Adrian.
Oh, that warms my heart, man. That's good to know. Things are sinking in. That's great. It's truth, though. Truth of the matter, you know. And so we talk about those sorts of things all the time, you know, with regards even to, let's say, the effective domain of learning and everything he does relationship-wise, or how he handles himself and all of those sorts of things. One of the things I told him, as related to being a quarterback here at the University of Nebraska, I said, if you need to lean on anybody about what that position's like, I said, you got a great resource with Coach Frost. So he can give him a lot of information about at least that leadership component in that domain.
So in what areas have you seen him improve most since the season?
Well, you know, after last season, we're just starting spring ball again, so I haven't seen him a whole heck of a lot in the environment that we are now. So as a young guy coming in, as most young guys, you know, he doesn't want to feel like he's throwing his weight around and all that sort of business. You know, he just wants to do his job and build that part of his profile from that performance standpoint, you know. Now that we've started spring ball, it seems like he's a little bit more out of his shell with regards to that first practice. I know that Coach Frost wants to accelerate that process, and so I'm going to continually prod him to do the things that he probably needs to do when those sort of situations come about, but do it within the framework of his own personality, yeah, right, and be an encourager, not a discourager.
He's a pretty soft-spoken kid,
yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Do you almost, with him as a leader, do you almost want him to be, tell him, hey, you can kind of be a jerk sometimes? Or, like, how do you, like, kind of get gritty? Or kind of how do you...
I don't know that you know, sometimes it gets a bit confusing when you talk about how that relationship might be with a 15-year vet in the NFL, you know? But you have to remember that these young guys are here for maybe 4 or 5 years, and some of these cats they may not know for only maybe 6 months or a year. So sometimes that always doesn't go over the best way, you know what I'm saying?
So you want him to kind of be more of a
I think it's important for him to be an encourager and use his leadership from the framework of his own personality. And when something needs to be said, then don't be afraid to say it. I think one of the things that will help when Coach Frost, if he decides to get the leadership council going again, obviously there's an automatic sort of group where they know they're around guys of like mind. So if something needs to be said and something's going to be said, it's not going to be necessarily taken out of context, or where does that come from, you know? So there's a support system built in with that right from the get-go. So I think that'll help as well if he's fortunate enough to be on that council.
Do you think he feels more comfortable now than he was a year ago, not battling for a position? Or do you think he's a little trying to get out of his shell because he's kind of the guy now?
Well, if you talk to Adrian enough, you know he's battling for a position right now with himself, you know, and sometimes that's the hardest battle to have. So he's always pushing himself to be as good as he can possibly be all the time. Now, sometimes, you know, that can be, sometimes you need a break from being that way, right? So I encourage him to maybe take a break from himself every now and then, you know, and not to be so hard on himself. For instance, you play, I coach. Just, you don't worry about those things. I'll take care of those things.
Sure.
Yeah.
When you look at kind of the hype around Adrian, you know, he's getting the Heisman watch list and all that stuff. Do you worry how he might start getting in his own head a little bit and kind of start thinking about that too much, or do you think that he's got a good head and shoulders?
Ask that question again.
Sorry, that was a little bit confusing, but we were talking earlier about how Adrian's on some kind of early Heisman sort of watch, and so Do you worry how that might affect a guy like Adrian, or does he just have a good kind of head on his shoulders and he's kind of good to go?
I think when quarterbacks have this misapprehension in their head that from a functional standpoint they're the most important position, that's when they get themselves in trouble, right? Obviously, with regards to responsibility, the position holds as much, if not more, than anybody on the team in terms of playing. So to keep him grounded from that standpoint, just do your job. Don't worry about anything else that happens. The most important thing is to do your job, so at the very least, you can give our team a chance to win any game. And to keep him focused on just that particular part of it, that will keep him, to use your word, grounded.
Hey, Coach Frost was talking earlier how there were some things that you would be able to teach him specifically that not even Coach Frost could. Do you know?
Frosty said that?
He said that, yeah. Do you know exactly what he might have been talking about?
I don't know the quote, so I don't know exactly what it was about. Was it about something technical, keys and reads,
Well,
or mechanical, or that sort of thing?
I had asked him certainly about Coach Frost's kind of personal experience and if he was able to translate that to Adrian, kind of the learning process, and so that's what he did.
Oh, well, yeah, I think if I mentioned that earlier, in terms of being a quarterback here in Nebraska, who better to talk to than Coach Frost about that? With regard to the technical aspect, Frosty's in a different role now as being the head coach. He's not as focused as isolated on like he was at Oregon with Marcus. So he has a different emphasis during practice. I deal with Adrian and all the quarterbacks all the time with regards to either their keys and reads or their eyeballs and their feet and all that sort of stuff. So maybe that's what Coach Frost was talking about.
Was Andrew Bunch put on scholarship?
Pardon me?
Was Andrew Bunch put on scholarship?
Not that I'm aware of.
What do you like about what your backups have done over the winter? Kind of how have they done?
Well, they've worked extremely hard from all the reports I've had from Coach Duvall, and that's where that leadership component, if it's going to have a starting place, is going to be in there with him. And it's important for us to be the hardest working group on the team. So as a group of quarterbacks, just from the reports I've had from Coach Duvall, that's been tremendous. As it relates to everything they've done with the playbook, I'm certain that how they graded out last fall will be evident again this spring. I don't think they'll have any issues with the cognitive part of the game. Now it's just a matter of them getting reps and cleaning up some of the small details with regards to what they do from snap to snap.
Scott said that Luke had about as good of the first day as you can have.
Yeah, and he did a nice job.
Yeah.
He really did. It was impressive. I mean, he knew where he was supposed to go with the ball. Now, did he have some issues? Yeah, because he's not perfect. But yeah, he did a nice job. I was impressed. Yeah, with the work he's done to get himself in that position.
Mario, the situation with Coach DeWitt. What do you think? Or what was kind of the message from Frost, and what do you have to say to? What would be your message to him?
To who? To
Coach DeWitt.
To Coach DeWitt?
Yeah.
Cardinal, he's my buddy, man. I just told him to, if he needed anything from my wife and Kate in any way, shape, or form, to let us know. That our prayers are with him, and that if anybody can beat this thing, it's him. That was my comment to Coach DeWitt when I found out.
And Mario, through Adrian's first year on campus, in what parts of his life or his football life, either way, did you find yourself most continually impressed with his maturity? Like when he did what things, did you find yourself maybe surprised that he was 18?
I don't know. I don't know that I was ever surprised, just because of dealing with him going all the way back to when we first started recruiting him at UCF. That demeanor, I just had a gut feeling that demeanor was going to carry over to everything he did as a quarterback. Whether it was talking with you all, in a press conference situation, how he handled himself on the field in some pretty pressure-wise situations as well. The one that comes to my mind most of all was probably his demeanor at the Ohio State game. It was okay. It's normal business. get on with this and let's go.
So then what do you remember, I mean, if you can take it back even further, you mentioned when you first started
Mm-hmm.
recruiting him at UCF.
Yeah.
What do you recall about those initial contacts?
When I first met him, when I went out to Clovis West High School, and just how he answered some of the questions I asked and how we interacted and just how calm and placid he was. You know, I figured that was just going to translate over to how he carried himself as a quarterback.
Because you've gotten to know him, where do you think what's that learned with him?
I think, his mom and dad, right, Tony and Christy, have done a tremendous job raising him, that work ethic that he's always been instilled with. I think the tragedy of him losing his mom had an impact on that as well, in terms of getting him to maybe mature and grow up faster than maybe he needed to. So I think a collection of those sorts of experience have led to how he is right now as a person.
How will that serve him? That maturity, because a lot of stuff is going to get thrown his way,
Yeah.
outside noise, Heisman, all this stuff. How
Yeah.
will he be able to stay grounded like that?
I think, as I answered the question earlier, just from a quarterback standpoint, to really understand that we are nothing but one cog in the wheel of success or failure, and that any success that we experience as a group of quarterbacks is directly related to all of our teammates. And if we really truly feel, seriously, if we really truly feel that practice is important and rehearsal is important, then how about all of our show team guys who may be second and third team guys? And one of the things I've heard that's been so tremendous about the tradition at Nebraska was just those show team guys, those second and third team guys who were giving that look every day at practice and how tenacious they were. And the better look you get with those guys, the better you're going to be able to perform on Saturday. So we take it all the way to that level. Adrian, in terms of function, you're no more important than a scout team guy. If we in fact truly believe that. And I know our room does. And as a result, that piece of the puzzle will keep him grounding and not become self-centered and selfish, and that when it's important to take the blame, use the word I. When we're talking about the collective, then use we and our.
Because you're in a room full of guys who are the man,
Sure.
So it might be tough to get guys to buy into the we.
That lecture that we have, that we had when I first got here, is in fact just about that piece of it, that leadership part of it, and the relationship between accumulating power as a leader and exercising that power with humility. Right? That's important. And for them to hear those sorts of things, it may have been the first time they've ever heard those sorts of things. But that's critical, because the worst thing that can happen on a football team with regards to the quarterbacks that are on the team is that they become selfish and self-centered, and it's all about them. That's destructive. That's poisonous, and we just cannot allow that to happen.
Yeah, Mario, you've said in the past, like with McKenzie from his freshman year to sophomore year, you guys really worked on high ball type errors that really served him well
Yes.
his sophomore year.
Yes.
Was there anything with Adrian from his last year to this year that you saw technique-wise or from a mechanics point of view that you needed to work on
In
in
terms
the
of-
offseason coming into the spring?
That we need to clean up?
Yeah.
We got the chain thing taken care of, so that was probably the biggest piece of the puzzle with regards to his ability to throw the football. There's some small little detail things with his feet that we need to clean up that are quick fixes, but will take some time, so they just become quote-unquote second nature for him, so he doesn't have to think about those things anymore. Because they'll still raise their ugly head every now and then. They don't cause serious problems, but getting those things cleaned up will make him more efficient and more effective.